All right, thanks. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Appropriations Committee meeting of March 28th, 2024. To get started, the remote meeting announcement. This open meeting of the Appropriations Committee is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law on March 29th, 2023. All members of the Appropriations Committee are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The act allows the Appropriations Committee to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment if folks have a comment. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Jeff Knight.
Aye.
Tim Kalin.
Here.
Bob D'Amico.
Here.
Thank you very much. And staff, as I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Jason Little, Finance Director.
Present.
All right. Thank you very much. We have a quorum. First order of business is the approval. Actually, I'll open it up for public comment. If there are any members of the public that want to make a comment or have a question, please raise your hand in Zoom. Going once. Going twice. And good. Okay. Now we've got the approval of meeting minutes. We have the meeting minutes of March 7th, 2024. Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve the minutes of March 24th.
Thanks, Bob. Second for that?
Second.
Thanks, Tim. Motion made by Bob, seconded by Tim. Any discussion? All those in favor, Jeff?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
And I'm also an aye. That passes unanimous. We also have the minutes of March 14th, 2024. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve
the minutes.
I'll take that from Jeff on the motion. Any second?
Sure, I'll second that.
Thanks, Bob. Any discussion on this? All right. This is also a roll call vote. Jeff?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Bob?
I was not in attendance, so I guess I have to abstain, right?
Yeah, or you can confirm that
I still could vote, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I approve the minutes. I read them, so they sound like
great.
Okay.
And I'm also a nice stuff. All right. We have basically an opening on the agenda. If there was any additional questions we had about the materials that were presented to us, or requests for additional information, or items that we needed to deliberate further on, this is an opportunity to, excuse me, to review those items, make those requests, answer any lingering questions that would, currently would not give us enough information to make our recommendations against those articles for town meeting and the overall budget. Yeah, Jeff.
I sent in a list of questions, mostly for the Department of Public Works.
Mm-hmm.
I have not yet received responses to any of the questions posed to DPW.
Jason, do you remember the disposition on those? Was the
I think Tim had offered to set aside time to meet about it, and I didn't see any proposed meeting dates happening since then. I think that was where it got left. I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, if there's
again, I have Jeff's email as well. He CC'd me or included me on the email to get the. I mean, we need to get the answers from DPW to those questions. So
yeah,
I don't have them.
Right. So if there's some of those questions I was copied on those. All the members might not have been copied on that. So as we get those dispositioned, there's a number of those questions that I think are straightforward to be answered by the public works director, and then any of the additional ones that maybe Tim wants to weigh on, if we can maybe split those in, the easy answer, get those questions presented back to the entire committee with those answers, and if there's a few that require some additional discussion, then get that.
Yeah, I think, you know, to the chair, I think a good approach might be to see where we are next week with that, and like maybe we can get the answers in writing and send them out to everybody broadly. So if Jeff has those as questions, they may be they may be questions on everybody's mind, or might be informative to everybody. So before we finalize a report with recommendations, I mean I'd like everybody's answers and concerns to kind of be addressed before this body puts together its report for town meeting and finalizes it.
Yes, agreed. So that's is an open action, right? For
Yes, yeah.
staff to provide the answers to that. That's that Jeff sent in via email.
And just I would highlight too as well that I don't know if you plan to bring it up, but I wanted to highlight the most recent change, which was zeroing the hook truck article that for
yes,
public
I was
works,
going
and
to go through some of those items in just a moment after soliciting or getting the disposition on any open questions that the committee had.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, Scott. I didn't mean to get ahead of myself.
Good. I'm with you on that as well in terms of those changes. Yeah, Jeff.
I got one question about that, the zeroing out, and I believe if I recall, this is because of the police department's need for expanded funds for the siding project. I wanted to know because I believe that the hook truck was proposed to be far more expensive than what would be allocated back to the police department. Is that incorrect?
I can answer that. It's exactly the amount of the hook truck that's been allocated to the police station. So that I think two things happened. I think that was probably the least priority of the DPW's needs for this cycle. It was a new piece of equipment that they wanted to have, and they've moved it to next year's capital plan, so that it'll be considered again next year. But it was almost exactly the amount that the architectural report notified us of the shortfall in funding. So that article was zeroed out in the warrant, and then the police station was increased by the $340,000 that was originally in that article. So the police station article is now $540,000 in the warrant, and with 70 coming from to be reappropriated from the painting article. So 470 is going to be coming from free cash, but the 170 was already, or the 130 was already in the plan to come from free cash to begin with. So it's net neutral to the overall capital plan picture, but the overall 6-year plan increases by that amount because of the truck being moved out a year.
Thank you. And then it does. Thank you. And as a separate question, I just happen to notice just a very quick review of the draft report you provided, which we certainly appreciate.
There's possibility that there could be typos in that. So feel free to, I won't take it personally if you point any out.
No, so I just want, because I noticed that the stabilization fund being established, or proposed anyway, for Assabet Valley Technical had NA for the amount, and I was curious about that.
Well, I believe the article is really just to propose. I was going to go over their budget information again because we had kind of an internal disagreement just not long before the beginning of this meeting, where I didn't think that they were going to appropriate anything into it this round, but the article was clearly just not clearly, but the article is just an authorization to allow them to create a stabilization fund mechanism. It wasn't.
Oh, I see. Okay, because I recall from the presentation they wanted to fund it with $250,000, but I didn't understand if that was proposed to be Northborough's share of the
No, no,
stabilization
no.
fund.
That would be the entire, if that's what you recall, it would be the entire appropriation into their stabilization fund.
Okay, so we
That-
wouldn't even know then yet what that would be. If so, right now for the warrant article, it's to establish the existing
Right.
sort of the mechanism, and then that would be later appropriations for our share of actually funding it.
Right. So there's probably a provision in their budget, and I apologize for not being able to check this before, because like I said, this question came up internally not long before this meeting, but I haven't had a chance to look through their budget documents yet to see what was in it to appropriate into their reserve fund. But um, we we would just be paying our proportionate share of whatever allocation is in their budget to go to the stabilization fund. So
Got it. Okay.
regional schools have the authority to create these stabilization funds, but they need their member towns to approve them. I think it was 2018, we approved one for the Algonquin Regional School to create one. At the same year, the town of Southborough rejected that article. And I believe they brought that back this year, and I haven't found out whether that passed or not, but that was, it's a possibility for both of our regional districts that we're members of for us to have underlying our assessments having stabilization contributions within those assessments. But
Right.
but there's nothing additional in our budget beyond what would be appropriated for their assessment in total.
And
That makes sense. Thank you.
But
Yeah.
I will get a definite answer to that question before we vote on that.
I can't recall if the estimate superintendent gave us a rundown of which member towns approved or not, or if this was the first round through them. So my expectation is that this was authorization to create without necessarily appropriating any money into it,
Mhm.
but getting that clarity.
Right.
To go back to the police department citing, if members haven't seen the updated estimate for that, that's easiest access to that is to look at the select board packet from Monday's meeting. If you look at the select board page, that agenda packet has the estimate that shows the labor materials that bring us to the 540,000.
Thank you, Scott.
All right. Bob, did you have any open questions or additional information you need to get?
No, I don't have any information that I need. I know there is, and I guess I could speak now. I'm not going to support Article 43, which is the CPA article, but I'll give the information to, I guess, is it Jason that you're writing up the
Yeah, I was putting together the draft
report? Yeah, okay.
for you.
So I'll email you my bullet points on why I'm not supporting it.
Okay.
Great. And then Tim, did you have any outstanding questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay, great. Well, we know you're good. And then I have drafted a short blurb just to talk about the availability of ARPA funds that are yet to be allocated. Those do need to be allocated by the end of the calendar year. So I have a short paragraph that essentially, similar to last year's report, identify those that are available. And then if the committee so deems it, I state our recommendation that the select board establish a plan for and criteria to assess requests and get that money allocated before it expires. So in the next update of the draft report, you'll see that paragraph entered. Do you have a question, Jason?
Oh, I was just going to add that I did see what your suggested language was, and I can send it back to you with some of the numbers filled in. I think you wanted to include what the annual savings was going to be for the street lights, and I don't think we have a hard number for that estimate. It
If there's
will
if
be,
there's anything qualitative to be said rather than quantitative,
Yeah.
that was used as an example of a good use. If you all remember the LED lighting replacement for street lights, an upfront cost using ARPA money resulted in year-on-year savings, or each year subsequently savings. So that's I use that as a positive example of good use of the ARPA funds using that most recent allocation. Great. The next, just to pivot then just a little bit in terms of general questions as we look at the draft warrant articles, were there any additional questions or comments on any of those individual articles?
Not for me.
Yeah.
Just what I already mentioned. Other than that, I'm good.
Great. Jason, I know there was for Article 15 about the sewer. I know there may have been a hearing as recent as yesterday. Do you happen to know whether that was conclusive and we know how that's moving forward or not? Too early.
I know that there is going to be a meeting between the mayor and the administrator at some point to discuss the possibility of the settlement, and I didn't hear any updates following that, but that is an open question, and hopefully before we vote recommendations or anything like that, we can add some language about that, because there may not be a disposition on that until closer to town meeting.
Okay. Just looking to see if there's an opportunity on that. I'm looking of other open ones. You provided the totals on the prior year bills, so that's great. We know that. The hook truck we talked about. The next one, actually, I have open questions to the superintendent about the power purchase agreements for the 3 schools. I'm going to read my questions to the superintendent on that. I'll copy you and Tim.
Okay. Yeah. Do you think we should add those articles into your list of articles that you want to weigh in on, Scott?
That's a question. Not knowing what they were from just the title, I haven't had then a chance to look at the draft booklet to see what the language is.
Mm-hmm.
But it could be.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that there's a financial impact, whether it's a net simply just they're going to apply savings to their electricity, or there's actually going to be an income stream from them. I don't think there's an income stream, but I think that there is a financial impact of them. So hearing your comment, I'm going to add those back to the draft, and then we can always remove them. See if we can clarify what it means what those articles mean to everybody.
Okay, sounds good. And for the rest of the committee, essentially my questions were, as the school administration and a school committee review the possibility of solar on the schools, was there an assessment of the different methods to implement solar power, anywhere from purchasing systems outright, in which then all the power production is then a gain back, power purchase agreements where you're essentially leasing the real estate, right, and then paying the reduced rate for production that is less than the rate from the normal utility. We hope it's less than the rate from the normal utility, and the like. So there's different options. Lease to own, purchase outright, power purchase agreements. And I just hadn't seen, and I hadn't tracked the discussion with the school committee on the evaluation of those different options. And if the power purchase agreement came out as the clear winner, it was more of not having seen that information, to get that background information of how they reached their decision to look at a past purchase.
Yeah, so I mean, I believe that they're in the that there would be a 20-year contract, and that's what town meeting would be authorizing them to lease the space on at the schools and enter into the 20-year contracts. So generally, contracts are limited to 3 years that we can enter into unless town meeting votes to extend that. So I believe that it's the twofold is the purpose of the 3 articles that are going to town meeting for the space. So they will have a financial impact, but it may be internal. So they were left off of the draft, but we should probably add them back on and put some commentary about it.
That sounds good. Yeah, I'm familiar with residential private options, but I don't know how the rules and regulations differ for municipal use.
Yeah, I've seen it implemented firsthand in another community, and it does amount to savings, but it's a complicated process. But I believe that in this case, because they're controlled by the schools, the article would be. I think it's purely electrical savings within the school department's budget.
Yeah, that makes sense. Excuse me. And then finally, for me, in terms of articles, Article 39 for the public parking funding authorization, that is such a low amount and is tied so closely to downtown revitalization. It has me wonder whether the select board would be willing to fund that using ARPA. And so that's a question I'll pose back to Tim.
Okay.
And board on that. And if it, depending on answers, then that might be a bullet to add to that paragraph in the report.
Right. I think the disposition of leasing property is the more of the bent of the article than the appropriation of the money for it. So my take on that is that would be an appropriate use of ARPA as well if they were to have an actual plan in mind. It probably would. It may or may not cost more than that.
Yeah,
the balance could be.
Jason, I'm sorry, your draft calculation on that, $1.50 for the 1 year tax impact.
Yeah, to raise taxes for $10,000. That's basically
Yeah, so that's just another one. That would be an easy just win to just. I know some would say, oh, $1.50 is insignificant, but hey, if we can shave $1.50 off the tax impact for the year, it's moving things in the right direction, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's great. That was the extent of the kind of open or changed articles. The next item then I would bring up, so included in the package tonight, since George Frankel was not going to be able to attend tonight's meeting, he did take the time to write up a note, and that was distributed to all of us. And the where he was able to outline, right, that in this budget cycle we're operating under a very compressed timeline, with then a lot of unknowns as we transition town administration and some other things. And so the comments that George is making is not necessarily to do anything different or to stop our approach in this budget cycle of moving towards approval, but then looking ahead to next year and subsequent years, some things that we could do on either in terms of the way the information is compiled for the department budgets, with maybe some summary information, better highlight of identifying what the changes are and the factors that led to those changes. So mostly for tonight, I just want to make you all aware of that. And it's something that I think we look to discuss probably after town meeting, as we gear up perhaps for what will be a fall special town meeting, and what are likely to be meetings that we have in preparation for that cycle, where it's going to be, from a financial perspective, a lot about the fire station, right? So I think I'm anticipating that we will have some scheduled meetings to prepare for special town meeting in the fall, and then that would be an opportunity then to talk about the setup for the next budget cycle, which would happen, December, within the calendar. That's what.
Okay.
Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
I approach it that way. So rather than try to set up, any summer meetings or things like that to try to figure out schedules, I'm thinking of, let's weave those suggestions or ideas, deliberate on those from George in the fall as we prep for special town meeting. Awesome. Looking through the bits there. Okay, I had the warrant booklet open that I did not get through everything tonight. So, kind of finally, in terms of next steps, we have the continuation of the public budget hearing at the select board that is scheduled for Monday evening. That'll be 7 p.m. That will also be Zoom. And then we have a scheduled in-person meeting Thursday the 4th at 7 p.m. And that's when we'll finalize our recommendations. Hopefully have received all the answers to questions by then and be able to take votes on our recommendations, put in the final report, and take it to town. Any folks with conflicts either for Monday or next Thursday?
I do. I have a conflict on Monday, so I won't be able to make it.
Okay. I have a feeling that our kind of direct participation, unless there was a particular question, is going to be light. So I don't think the
I know.
criticality is for to have a full quorum and attendance and all that. So I think we're in good shape.
I believe so too.
All right. Toward that end, any other items, Jason, that you have for us tonight?
No, I'm just scanning through the report as we're sitting here, so I don't forget something. All right, I think we have some action items for our next meeting. I'll type up those. I sent you those specific numbers that I had of the ARPA numbers, Scott. So I don't know if you want to share those. I just emailed them to you.
Okay, that's great. I will switch over to that. So just what I have for action items, we've got the public works questions from Jeff. I made note that the police department citing the additional estimate is available if folks need to review that. Not necessarily an action item, but a point to make. We've got the open question about the asset stabilization fund.
Right.
Questions about the power purchase agreements, and then the ARPA, potential ARPA funding for the parking authorization.
Yeah. Lastly, it's just the Marlboro article. We should have an update on that before the votes are taken, at least, so we can have a clear disposition on where we're going with that.
Great. Okay, let me switch over to that additional information. Let's see what there. Okay, thank you, Jason, for that. So
Scott, I'm sorry to interrupt you. The power purchase agreements, you said you posed a question to the superintendent for that information that you were seeking about it, or
I did a few weeks back. Okay. So I'll renew that. I'll send that back and copy you and Tim.
Okay.
On those questions.
And if anybody needs me to respond to something, please, if I haven't responded, please call me. because I have a volume of email that you know, I'm suffering from the same thing that a lot of people are, but I have a lot of email, and if I haven't gotten, I try to be responsive to everything, but fastballs can get by me. So if somebody's waiting for something, please don't wait forever. Please call me and refresh your request for information.
Sounds good. Appreciate it, Jason. I know you've got a lot in flight, and I didn't help today with several fragmented messages rather than getting everything organized in a single message. All right. So in terms of where things stand for the American Rescue Plan Act funding, we received back in the day 4.5 million. Of that, 2.3 million has been allocated, leaving roughly 2.2 remaining to be committed. And as we mentioned, the rules on our versus committed by
Scott, can I just the wording was as of the start of the budget process. They had since made 2 allocations since then. So I think that, you know.
Oh, yep, I'll get that.
Okay. Sorry. I don't mean to get ahead.
Yeah. That's good. I'm there on I got to read the sentences in order and hadn't got to that bit. So at the start of the budget process, right? Yeah, 2.3 allocated, 2.2 still to be committed. Those need to be committed by the end of the calendar year 2024 and then expended by the end of the calendar year 2026. So that's a consideration in that, looking at some of the capital items that may have been candidates for ARPA with the long delivery times on some of those pieces of equipment, they would no longer be candidates. Also, there wasn't an indication in putting together this year's capital plan that the select board was looking to fund any of the other capital items through ARPA. But they then have committed since the start of the budget process an additional $400,000 in funds. So if I do the math on that, 1.8, Jason, roughly?
Yeah. It's 1.779 million.
Cool. So good stuff there. And it's that additional 375 or so that went to the street lighting program that could have on the order of 100,000 savings in subsequent years. So spending nearly 4 in 1 year to get, or 400 in 1 year to get 100 back each year following, that's a pretty good example. So that's what I meant to give that as an example for a really good idea. So Jason, thank you for that. And if it turns out that there's nothing quantitative we can say in terms of the cost savings on the lighting, then we'll just, like I said, qualitatively.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Yeah, Bob.
Yeah, I got a quick question. So what you said about the ARPA, let's say if the selectmen decide to fund the fire truck this year, but it doesn't, I don't know what they're funding, but let's say let's take a hypothetical situation. If the fire truck doesn't become available until after 2026, then that funding is lost. The way I understand it.
Well, you're through the chair. Those are the types of questions that I'm sure we're going to get more clarity on from Treasury as time goes on. Right now, these are the regulations: is that we have to have the money obligated by 2024, and then spent by 2026. Whether there's going to be delays, if there's going to be an appeal process, I don't know yet.
Okay. I was just curious. Okay, thank you. That was my question.
But again, in light of not having an answer for that, my recommendation would be they would pick items that were going to be readily available in lieu of it being a fire truck or something like that, because moving money around in the capital plan could definitely make funds available so that we wouldn't have the fire truck this round just happened to be the one biggest item, which is why we targeted that for borrowing because there was a gap between the free cash available and the capital plan this year. So it was $700,000. So we could easily reapply $700,000 to other items that were going to be more readily available in that case, you know, if you're following what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm just want to ensure that we don't lose them because we allocated some and then it expires and then we lose it.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know the answer to that, Bob, and I'm not sure that the answer is available now. So to that question, there's a lot of unanswered things with the rules surrounding ARPA, and there's not like a phone number you can call. Treasury's published guidelines and frequently asked questions, but if your question's not answered directly, I don't think that question's been answered yet. I think that, you know, that.
No, I understand. I just don't want time to run out on this because time.
No, I don't either.
And all of a sudden we won't find ourselves in a situation where, you know.
Yeah.
But for example, you know, to talk about some trading that could be done, it would be relatively straightforward to say take the road maintenance and sidewalk repairs, you know, the 300 grand that we're placing free cash, use that for ARPA, you know, pay for that using ARPA funds, and then reduce the amount of borrowing on Rescue One by that 300,000. So there's nothing that would prevent the select board from driving the amount that needs to be financed down to zero if they were inclined to use those funds. So they could reduce those tax impacts if they so chose.
Right. Since I mean, it's likely that there's going to be a special town meeting in the fall, so there's nothing precluding there being an article to reallocate free cash to and to something that was a borrowing authorization that, you know, is going to be a delay.
Yeah. I just don't want to fall back at the end of 2024. Now we can't reallocate or anything like that because then we're stuck with the allocation that we already promised the money for. Okay. I got you. Thanks.
All right. Any other items from the members? Great. Jason, one more chance for anything else?
No, I didn't have anything else for you folks tonight.
All right. Just great. So we'll see most of you on Monday evening, again on Thursday evening. If there's nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
Thursday is an in-person meeting, not a Zoom, right?
Thursday we'll do in-person town.
Yeah, and Thursday is when you'd intend to vote recommendations, and if there's
Right.
on every other article that beyond, I mean, if there's still information outstanding, then you know, maybe you could postpone voting on it. But next week, I think we should plan to have votes taken on all of the articles and finalize the report.
Exactly. That's the goal.
Thank you.
I move to adjourn.
All right. Second by Bob. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm doing that. I'm trying to do a better job, Angie. Get those motions recorded. So moved by Jeff, second by Bob. All those in favor, Jeff?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much for fitting this one in. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Jason.
Bye. Thank you, everybody.